This is the most prestigious music I could find for, he's jumping the gun on me. He just wants on the air. Most prestigious music I could possibly find for a guy that I respect very much. And I thought we should give a hero's welcome to the show. Welcome to OUA Today. Ettore Lattanzio. How are you, buddy?
Not too bad, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, I'm glad to have you. Like I said, I wanted to get you on earlier in the season, but you were too busy trying to destroy my body in all sorts of crazy ways. So I thought it was best if I just don't make you angry, and then we wait until the season's over, and then I have you on now. But you are eligible for the CFL draft. You've gone through the whole process. You've been doing the dance with the scouts and with the workouts and everything else. Let me know first and foremost, for anybody who's seen you play, and, you know, there's kind of always this dark period once we are done the OUA season where people that aren't involved in the actual preparation process wonder where the heck everybody goes and where you go, and because all of a sudden you just pop up in CFL training camps. How has the process been for you as you've been going through getting ready?
It's definitely been, it's been exciting. It was tough, having to balance everything with school for the, 4 or so months of training.
Yeah.
But it's been really good, man. I've enjoyed the process. I got to meet a lot of great people, especially at the Combine. You meet a lot of good players, and you get to meet all the CFL staff members. So that was really awesome. And after that's done, just the waiting game now,
Yeah. How frustrating almost is the waiting? Because, like, what was the last interaction that you had with teams? Would it have been the E-Camp?
I was, actually, the last couple of days, I've had a couple teams call me.
Oh, good.
But it's, for the past month and a half, it's been pretty quiet. Haven't really heard much at all.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it?
It is. You just don't know. And, if you're not one of the premier guys, you're not getting, most of the coverage.
Right.
So, some of the top guys, they tend to have a better idea as to who may pick them or, which pick they might be. So it's, for guys such as myself, you're waiting, waiting to see what happens.
Here's my thing, though. Why are you not one of the top guys? Like, and this is completely, I have a very unique perspective. I think that's what I add to this radio show, is that I'm talking to guys that I've played against and I have personal experience with them. Maybe everybody has a different experience with every different player, but for example, I respect Chris Aki that is going to be, he tested through the roof and everybody loves him, and he's kind of that hot name that's coming up to the draft, which is, by the way, Tuesday evening on TSN. First couple of rounds are on TV and then the rest are streamed online. But when I played against Laurier, when I broke the huddle, I was not concerned with Chris Aki. And you can say that that's because he's a defensive back instead of a defensive lineman like yourself. But the reality is, if you're a threat enough to me, and not even in terms of blitzing or getting to the quarterback, but in terms of making a play in any way, like Craig Butler would be an example of a guy when I was young in my career. I would see him across the line and I would know where he was every time. Right? So, and I did that for you. That's what I'm trying to get at here, is like every single time I broke the huddle, I would go, "Dear God, where is ET? Because if I don't know where he is, something terrible is going to happen." And then it's frustrating to me that you're not kind of in that conversation of guys that should be getting all of those calls from the scouts that are saying, "Listen, we're going to take you at 3 unless they do this, and then we'll take you at 5, or, we'll trade up." And so is that frustrating at all for you to understand your own abilities and to have guys like me who have direct experience playing against you that know how good you are and still not to maybe be on that upper echelon? Does that fuel the fire, or like, what is that like?
I mean, certainly, it fuels the fire because it makes you, have that chip on your shoulder, and it gives you that little bit of extra push to want to compete and be that much better, right? Because you have to constantly prove yourself. But I mean, I'm not too surprised about the whole thing, just because I'm not the typical defensive lineman, let alone defensive tackle.
Right.
So, I mean, teams need to evaluate me and see firsthand, especially during camp, because the Combine can only show you so much, obviously.
Yeah.
But they need to see firsthand, what kind of player I am. That, even though you can watch film and whatnot, you have to see firsthand in person what this guy can do. So, right now there's still a lot of question marks, over my head as to, who am I? What can I be in this league?
It sounds like a Disney character. Who am I?
Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes it's a case of xenophobia where people are apprehensive, afraid of difference.
Yes.
I think there's something that's different. I mean, I don't fit the mold, so I'm not like the rest. Look at all the other defensive tackles, at least in the league,
yeah,
or even just in this draft stock. I mean, I'm the smallest guy,
right?
So it's just sometimes it's a matter of do you fit the mold, and it'll come down to which team sees me not only just as a tackle, but I mean also as some other type of player. Whether I play end. Some teams have said fullback.
Yeah.
On the occasional lead block, whatever, but even linebacker in certain cases, whether I'm blitzing or dropping the coverage, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it'll take some learning to get good at those things. But at the end of the day, I just want an opportunity. So I don't care if I went first or last. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, just give me that opportunity and I'll play.
Either way, you're on a roster, right? And that's the joy of the CFL is, I would say the joy and the curse, I should say, because you might be on a roster, no matter where you get drafted, but at the same time, the draft is so small because there's only 9 teams, right? I mean, there's not a ton of jobs to go around, but I was going to say, before I got into that, if there was ever a league that was designed to have people who don't fit the mold succeed, it's the CFL, is it not?
Oh, certainly. I mean, the NFL is such a big conglomeration, and they have such specific criteria for players to meet that it doesn't allow for certain athletes to compete.
Right.
And not necessarily because they can't compete. It's just it's almost like you're written off before you get an opportunity.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people always make the argument, well, the NFL is better than the CFL, there's better players. And I mean, yeah, but you could also make the argument that the CFL just has different players, period.
Yeah.
And some of the most dominant CFL players, I mean, look at Cameron Wake. I mean, if the NFL is so much better overall across the board, he shouldn't be dominating like he was in the CFL, but in the NFL. You know what I mean? But he is.
Yeah, and you could almost argue that Cam Wake has had more success playing for the Dolphins, and when he was in the CFL, what is a typical position that a lot of teams use a Canadian in? A left tackle, right?
Exactly.
So he was almost having less success against a Canadian left tackle, left guard combo, and maybe your odd Canadian fullback who's picking him up than he is against guys down there. So I completely agree.
Exactly.
Switch gears a little bit here. Who do you compare yourself to? Who would be a comparable if you were sitting in an interview room that is in the league now? Because I have one in mind, but I want to know what you think.
You know what? I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I'm really not too sure. I mean, I know who I try and play like, but they no longer play anymore. But
who is it?
I love John Randall when he used to play for the Vikings.
Oh yeah, that's actually a great comparison. Now I think about it,
because he was undersized. He came in to camp. He was like 240, 245, and the coaches saw something in him and they kept him on. He put on the weight that was necessary for him to play, and best interior pass rusher ever.
Yeah, he's and also one of the funnest sound clips in the history of NFL films. He's a talker, and I know that you are too. My idea for who you might be, and this isn't a direct comparison, but I was just thinking about size, stature, and the position he ended up playing. Jake Thomas, that came out of Acadia a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He's 6'2", 269. I'm looking at his bio here, and he's I played against him in one game in a national semifinal where I was on the sidelines, and I got to watch him a lot because he was the real good pass rusher, similar to your game. And I thought that he was a guy that kind of came up a little bit. But anyways, John Randall, a guy that you talked to or that you looked up to when you were kind of playing, he's a talker.
I'm not as bad as I never really spoke as much as him.
Here's the thing,
we have dialogues. He talked trash. I was just talking.
Yeah, you just like to speak. That's all good. I had a little birdie who may or may not be an elite world class kicker tell me that you do like to chat.
Oh God, I have an idea as to who that person is.
Yes, he might have wonderfully long locks that look very similar to Calgary Stampeders special teams coordinator Mark Killam. He looks
he looks like Nick Jonas. Tell him that.
I'm sure he'll hear it. I'm sure he'll be listening to this. But Tyler Grabini told me that you like to talk, even back from your days when you guys were growing up in Ottawa. What about talking? I don't want to say excites you, but what do you enjoy about it? Is it just a fun way to fill the day because football at the end of the day is a game?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved to talk. I just like communicating with people, just, getting to know people, and the best way to do that is through, dialogue.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, even during the games, like, there's been a few times where I try trash talk. It just doesn't always come out the best way because I'm just not, you're not in the right mindset, and sometimes it's a gift. Some people can just do it.
Yeah.
So normally I just talk to the guys, tell a joke, try and stay loose. And in my everyday life, I'm always just trying to converse with people, and it makes things more enjoyable.
Yeah. My introduction to you was when we played in 2013 week one here. And I'll be honest, I had watched you and I knew how good you were, but I didn't really know until we actually played. In that game, you laid a licking a couple of times, but and you got some good shots, I remember. But so a couple of low snaps because our center was having trouble dealing with you, and the snaps were coming back into my feet. And about the second or third one, I remember just falling on it and have you run by and go, "That's three! That's three!" And I was like, "Oh man, Henry's got me again." But your time at Ottawa, what are you most proud of?
You know what? I have to say, this year actually getting back to playing you guys for the semi was probably, my most proud moment. Just as a team, because besides my first year when I played with Brad Sinopoli and a bunch of my team at that point.
Yeah, Cirilla Jetty and Hughes and all those guys.
They were stacked. I mean, they were basically the Vanier Cup team. Obviously it didn't go that way, but that team was stacked. It was a seasoned team, and as a rookie, you don't normally feel like you're truly a part of it, even though you might be a practice roster demon or whatever.
Right.
But it just. I felt that even though we went to the AIDS Cup, I felt more a part of the team and the experience this past season when we actually got to play you guys again, because I'm a starter, I'm captain, and
right.
And we had a really rough season all around. We had lost the Panda game, which was a big kick in the stomach, and we were able to come back from that, because we could have easily just rolled over, and when we had to play you guys to get an opportunity and to actually have a chance to play in Windsor again, that was kind of us controlling our own destiny. So,
yeah. And
I know you guys made the argument, well, we pulled out our guys and everything, but I mean, at the end of the day, we still have to win the game. So we kind of killed two stone, because by us winning, we were able to nullify Carleton.
Yes.
And it allowed us to, get an opportunity to extend our seasons.
Yeah.
That was definitely a moment, just being able to get a little bit further in the playoffs.
That was kind of the sweet justice of the Panda game, is it not? Mm-hmm. That you were able to sneak into the playoffs ahead of Carleton, who after that game obviously went down in ridiculous fashion with Nate Bahar catching the game-winning touchdown. But yeah, that's very interesting to me that was that game, because I remember, people said, "Oh, maybe Mac wants to drop this game." No, we were 100% trying to do everything in our power, because no team wants to, when you have a chance to go 8-0, go 7-1, right?
That's exactly it.
So we were playing as hard as we possibly could. We prepped for you guys as hard as any team that we had prepped for all season, and you straight beat us, right? And we were a team. This is what I think is great about OUA football in this past season, and we'll see if it continues in the fall, is there was probably 5 teams in the top of the OUA, similar to the way that basketball went this year. There are 5 teams in the top of the OUA that, if any of us got hot at the right time, we would have gone on a run that we did. Right? Like exactly. we got there just based on the fact that we timed out correctly, and we ended up going where we wanted to. But I think, even you guys, Derek Wendell started the season so hot, and he had a really good season overall, but if he would have ended the season the way that he started it, with like an 80% completion percentage or something stupid, whatever it was, then there's no way that you guys don't go on a run too. So that's where the chips fall. But it was definitely that game and that playoff game were battles, because we knew how great of a team you were. In your time at Ottawa, are there any regrets? Is there anything that maybe even like a little moment in a game or something, aside from maybe the Panda or, whether it's a playoff loss, something like that, where you look back on it and you say, you know what, because I know I have all sorts of regrets about the ways that the venue went this year, little things I could have done.
Games tend to be a blur, to be honest with you. Sometimes
when you play as fast as you do, everything's going to be a blur.
Honest to God, it's hard to remember sometimes, like after a game is done, I'm always like, what happened exactly, because everything is so fast and you're kind of reacting and just going through the motions and you make a play and you're like, oh, look, cool, I made a play. But, I don't know if I can pin down to having one single regret because, unfortunately, I've never been able to be in, I haven't been able to go to, the playoffs that far, so far as to having to play for a championship. But I'd say if I had to look back, they're playing in the Panda game this year was tough just because I felt that you never want to leave a game where you're like, oh, I didn't do enough or I should have done more. And not that I didn't try and do as much as I possibly could, but when you lose a game like that on that kind of a stage, and that's the closest I could say to being in the championship at our level. Right. You always wish you could have done a little bit more. Like if I watch, when you watch the last play before he receives the ball in the Hail Mary, I watched myself where I was on the field, and if I just got enough penetration, because I didn't really get any at that point, they were able to double team me on it. So, if I got that penetration, could I have maybe disrupted, the pass a little bit more? Would he have had, because, Jesse Mills is not exactly a mobile guy. Yeah. So,
hey, he's no Marshall Ferguson, let's be no.
He's just like a tree that's throwing the ball. He's taller than me, he's huge.
Yeah, he is a monster.
Yeah, if I was able to get back there, could he have thrown off his timing a bit, and he would have been a different story. But overall, I'm leaving the league pretty happy with what I've done overall.
Yeah, no, I completely agree that you have earned every bit of respect you've gotten. You were OUA defensive MVP this year and all of these things, right? So it's, there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of in any way there. I just ask because I know there's been moments that I look back on, not daily, but anytime I'm kind of around a football field. I was in Montreal this past week and I was standing on the field that I lost the Vanier in, and I'm going, man, I remember this throw and that throw and that throw, and I could have done this and that, and there's always little things. And I think that's the mark of a good player, and that's what's going to make you an exceptional CFL player down the road, is because you remember some of the little things that you want to do better in those little moments. But I don't know if I would beat yourself up too much about that end play against Carleton, because 150% in the huddle they're going, whoever has ET in the gap, we're doubling and don't move.
For sure.
Right?
Well, the toughest game I had to play, I think, and not necessarily the toughest team, but just the toughest two games that I had to play were probably against Windsor. Yep. Because they were very, very dirty. Yeah. the line at least, to say the least. And they were hyping the game up because in the previous season I had gotten like 4 sacks against their quarterback. Yep. And this year they're hyping it up, saying, who's going to win? How many is he going to get this game? And I didn't really care. Like, I just want to play to win. Like, I want to win. If I get a sack, I get a sack. But it didn't matter. Would it be nice? Obviously. But it didn't happen this year. And there were certain plays, when I was watching the game, I'm like, if I had just moved over a bit, an inch or two to the right, maybe I could have been there sooner. Like if I did this, but you know what? And like you said, it's the mark of a good player if you're constantly critiquing yourself, and I'm probably my biggest critic. But most games, I tend to leave. I never leave a game thinking I didn't do my best, or I didn't try my best. Yeah. Maybe my best wasn't the best that I've ever done in any given game, but it was the best that I could offer at that time. And sometimes, teams scheme really well against me. So playing you the second time was definitely harder than the first time, because you guys got a chance to kind of evaluate me and know how to block me. Yeah, and it's tough because I wasn't exactly being moved around too much. So if I'm always in a 3-tech or a 1-tech, you're either double teaming me or you guys are doing, slide pro or something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I think another good mark of a player is when you force an entire team to worry about you enough to change their entire scheme. You basically created a makeshift 1 week blocking scheme that McMaster has never used before. In my 5 years here, at least, that we've never used before, and we got forced to use it because of what you were playing. But so you went through all of these CFL things we talked about. We talked about mini camps and a little bit about that. You've played in the East West as well. I know it was fairly successful.
Actually, I never did.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Google.
No worries. I was selected to go. I just never went. It was little at camp because we had Coach Bress who was new and he was putting in his system, and we were getting our new DC was putting in his system. And I just said, you know what, I didn't feel like I was 100% anyways, and just wasn't really in it mentally. And I said, you know what, like, give it to someone else who really. And never, everyone else made a big deal about the East West, and I get, obviously it's a great experience, and I'm sure, I would have had a blast, being able to play against some of those guys. But at the time, it just didn't really feel, too important, and I had, I talked to my coach, and he said, listen, he goes, when it comes to going to the next level, it's not as important as you might think. It might have some bearing on your standings for the first TSN rankings that they might, send out. But at the end of the day, it's really not that big a deal. Yeah,
and you moved up the rankings anyways throughout the season, right? So it's...
Exactly. And again, like that, one team might have me at number one on their draft board for all I know. You know what I mean? Those rankings, you can't look at that stuff and worry about it. And at the end of the day, I don't care like if I go first or I go last. I just want to get an opportunity. But I looked at it from that standpoint. I said, well, do I leave spring camp and miss out on learning the system a little bit better to go play East-West, or do I stay and try and learn the system? And that was my obvious choice for myself.
Yeah, that's I think that's very valiant of you, because as a veteran leader, once you got to that point in your career and you realized what was going on around you, what was more important, that takes a lot of guts to step out of the limelight and be chosen for an all-star game and dedicate yourself to your team. So I think that's very cool. Did you do many interviews with teams at the E-Camp?
I got 6 out of the 9.
6 out of the 9. Okay, good.
Which I thought was a lot, because they're about 15 or 10 to 15 minutes long, and you just walk around making sure you don't show up late. I must have been like 10 minutes. I literally would sit outside doors and wait for other guys to interview. I was like, I'm not going to be late. Like, I'm here. I'm on time. Yeah. So, but some guys, they got all 9 teams, and that's it's grueling by the end of the night. Even though I love to talk, your voice, your mouth is just so dry and.
But just mentally exhausting too, right? I mean, by going through all these teams and trying to make sure that every single question is answered correctly. Well, here's the thing. You interviewed with 6 of the 9. Well, I'm going to be your 7th team, because it's time to play Who Wants to Be a CFL Employee.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we're doing it. You're on the height seat.
Oh, boy. Oh.
Ettore Lattanzio.
Yeah.
If you have an off day, what are you doing?
Probably playing PS4.
So you like PS4, but you don't like Xbox 360. What's wrong with the 360?
Well, the 360 is last generation, just so you know. So
you're discriminatory against age?
Yeah, basically. I'm not a Microsoft fan, so got to put the 360 to the side.
If you had to go for lunch with either Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, who are you picking and why?
Probably Steve Jobs, because I have some issues with the iPhone. But, overall, I'd say I'd go with him.
What issues are you having with the iPhone? What's wrong with the Apple technology?
I no longer have it, but I always found that it's as easy and user-friendly as it could be. Sometimes I feel like the Androids they can offer more, they do more,
That's
Apple's
fair.
Too slow to change.
That's fair. Well, you'll have to let someone at Apple know that you're not very happy with them. Next question for you. It's an aptitude question.
Mm-hmm.
Two trains are running in opposite directions.
Mm-hmm.
They cross a man standing on the platform in 27 seconds and 17 seconds respectively, and they cross each other in 23 seconds. If you were on one of those trains, what would you order from lunch on the menu consisting of a cream cheese bagel, cold cut meat sandwich, and meat lover's pizza?
What would I order? A meat lover's pizza.
You're down for the meat lovers?
I love the meat lovers.
That says a lot about you to CFL scouts, Ettore. Are you sure you want to lock in that final answer?
I'll lock it in.
Ettore, how committed are you to playing defensive line? Because I'm Jim Popp here from the Montreal Alouettes, and we'd really like to move you to tight end and have you be a downhill blocker.
Well, if that's my job, I'll do it. I'm committed to being a defensive lineman. Certainly, that's, I think, where my skill set is best suited. But if the team needs me to play tight end, I'll play tight end.
Last one I have for you here. This is the most important question of the entire day.
All right.
Skittles or M&Ms?
Skittles.
That is the correct answer. First overall draft pick. We would like to sign you to a $10,000 signing bonus just for saying Skittles. Listen, buddy, I wish you all the best. I appreciate you taking the time to joke around with me on here and joining OUA today. If you're taken in the top 5, I'll shave your initials into my head. If you're first overall, because I believe in the cause so much, I'll let you just pick a tattoo that you can put all over me. Okay?
I'll put my face right on your shoulder.
Yes, that's what I need. Just the full arm sleeve of ET. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it. All the best of luck in the draft, okay?
Thanks, man. Appreciate it for having me on there.
No worries. We'll be sure to check in with you soon.
All right, take care. Ciao.
You too. Ettore Lattanzio of the Ottawa GGs, former, and now he is headed towards the CFL. Fun guy to be around, tough competitor. When we come back after the break, we're going to be speaking with the BLG Male Award winner. It is Ross Proudfoot from the Guelph Griffins, a runner extraordinaire. Look forward to talking to him. We'll be right back on CFMU 93.3.